Meet the BrickBot, our virtual robot, compatible with the beloved LEGO Mindstorm's EV3 robot educator model. Earlier, I mentioned how outputs define what the robot can do. Let's focus on the drivetrain for this model, as it allows it to move around in a special way. The BrickBot has two wheels, each connected directly to a motor, which means this robot has two motors, the left motor controlling the left wheel and the right motor controlling the right wheel. There is a ball bearing located at the back of the robot to provide it with balance. This type of drivetrain is very common in robots. It is called a tank drive, and you can find it in Segways, robot vacuum cleaners like the Roomba and Nito, and in many education robots. During the next few missions, we will construct a rule book that applies to our BrickBot, the EV3 robot educator model, and many other robots. Unlike cars that have steering wheels, we have just these two motors. With them, we can control the robot in multiple ways. By exploring these ways together, you will know, by the end of this session, how to make such robots drive around. In this first navigation mission, we need to drive the robot forward. As you can see in the base code, we can control each motor independently. Here is the block for the left motor and another one for the right motor. The robot needs to drive forward, collect all those nuts and bolts until it reaches that target at the end of the path. These blocks make our code, just like Scratch. Writing visual code is very intuitive. All you need to do is snap blocks together. Once your code is ready, you can run it in simulation or download it to the real robot. One of the great things about learning with robots is that robot allows us to raise an hypothesis and put it to the test. This is something students can also do by their own at home, like in flipped classrooms. So here is another question. I will enter a speed value of 100 in the left motor block. "100" would mean top speed. Write down in the chat box what you think will happen when I run this code, powering just the left motor. Will the robot drive forward? Will it turn? If so, in what direction? To the right? To the left? I like asking students to use their imagination before making an assumption. What would happen if we step forward using only our left leg? Write down your answers now in the chat box. Don't rush, you have a moment. An assumption is worth nothing without the means of putting it into the test. Coder Z enables us to immediately put our assumptions to the test. By running the code in simulation, I'll click Run. By running the code in simulation, as you can see, the robot is turning to the right. The left motor is pushing the robot forward. But the right wheel is holding it in its place, resulting in a pivot turn around the right wheel. To see it clearly, let's activate the trail option. It will instruct the robot to leave a trail below its center of gravity. We can now clearly see how the right wheel is the center of this circle. So, we analyzed a particular behavior. based on which we can formalize a general rule, saying driving just one motor will turn the robot towards and around the other motor. To validate this rule, let's test it out against another particular case. Let's see if this rule applies to the right wheel as well. Our new hypothesis would be that if we turn only the right motor, the robot will turn to the left and around the left motor. Let's run the new code. Great. We now know how to pivot turn the robot, powering just one motor. Now, it is time for another hypothesis. What if we drive both motors together? I'll set both motors to 100. What do you think will happen now? Write down your answers in the chat box and we will try in a second. You can think about walking with both legs advancing at the same pace. Where would we go? Let's run the code. Hooray! Getting it right is always great, but in robotics, it is also great when you make a mistake. Great discoveries happen when we make mistakes. I encourage you and your students to accept mistakes as learning opportunities. Coder Z missions are great for trial and error. You can always try again, and when successful, click Next to take another